said, I never admitted to drinking and driving, and I will get an attorney, and we'll just settle this in court. It didn't seem like he wanted to answer any of my questions. It seemed like I was annoying him, and just by asking a question. And he even insulted me in my career. He's like, what are you going to school for anyway? And I said, I'm going to school to teach math, to teach high school level math. And that's when, saying that I was going to get an attorney to represent me, he said, who do you think people will believe, me or you? And then I sat back and I was like, what type of officer are you? What did you say? And that's when he grabbed me by my arm, lifted me out of my chair, turned me around with one of his hands. He had both my hands and pinned to the small of my back. With his other hand, he grabbed the back of my head and slammed it to the wall directly behind me. He grabbed the back of my head and slammed it to the wall. Being thrown to the wall in his complete control. And this is a 240-pound, 6-foot-tall male Latino officer. He brings me down to the ground. He puts his weight, his whole weight on my back. At this point, I wasn't handcuffed because I had just signed the consent to give a blood test. And so he's attempting to put the handcuffs on me as he's calling for backup. She's resisting. And I can hear him in the back. And I also hear footsteps coming to the right of my right side. So I turn over, and there are nurses and staff telling me, are you okay? What's wrong? What happened? Immediately, I broke out of this silence trauma mode, and I started pleading for help. Not physically, because I have a 240-pound officer on my back, but verbally, I'm saying, help, please. Somebody help. And this eye is busted, and it's being slammed to the ground. He's like, shut up, get down. I thought the nurses were going to help me. I thought I was going to get a blood test. I thought everything was going to be in procedure.
You
I never got a blood
test?
test. I never got medical treatment to my left side of my face.
You're in the hospital, and you still didn't get medical treatment.
These nurses are scared to intervene. You have an officer who is 240 pounds with a gun and a badge, and he's now saying, we got it covered. We're going to take her from here. Never did I get a medical release. And so when he attempts to book me into LA County Jail, the sheriffs there were laughing at him and saying, what happened to her? And then I'm pointing at him saying, he did this to me. And, you know, I wasn't quiet after that because I was scared for my life. And that's when the sheriffs were laughing at him. You don't have a medical release? We're not gonna deal with we're not gonna be liable for what you did to her. You need to take her to a hospital. So
Who said that?
The sheriffs at the LA County Jail. He couldn't find a jail that would take me without a medical release. So he was forced to take me to another hospital.
So now
where
he takes
finally got treatment.
How long? What time of the day did he first stop your car?
That was at 1 in the morning.
And now it's what time? He's taking you to a second hospital.
6 in the morning. I mean, this is like an 8-9 hour
trauma. You've been kidnapped by a rogue cop.
Kidnapped.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. You've been kidnapped. He didn't follow procedure.
And so that was that night. And not only did I get a beating on the night of March 21st, 2012, but I got a beating in the courtroom a year later when I tried to fight this case with video evidence. I had a surveillance video where I knew something happened. I knew what happened to me was wrong, and I immediately went to the hospital, and I requested that they release the video of that date, that time, before I even got an attorney. And then finally, they released it 6 months later. It's a little dark. You know, you can't really see anything that much clearly, so you need to run.
Is this Moody?
No. No. This is another family. Ernest Duenas was murdered by an officer and technical difficulties. But you can look it up on YouTube, Justice for Aloni.
Justice for Aloni.
Justice for Aloni. Look it up on YouTube because the day in court when I attempted to fight this with evidence, because, you know, we're guilty until proven.
Anyway, still got the You're on the left there. Who's on the right?
That's my mother.
Okay.
That was before the incident.
Oh, this was before the incident, before they smashed your eye.
Before.
Did you lose any vision in your left eye?
Immediately it was bleeding and swelling on the inside, and I couldn't see out of this left eye. But what I want to tell you all is that the officer immediately said I swung at him. So what ended up happening was that he didn't know that there was a surveillance camera that was capturing it all. So he stuck with his story. In his report, he ends up writing that I stood out of my chair and that I was waving my hands at him, waving my hands at the nurses. There are no nurses. It's just him and I. Then he says, I told her to calm down. I told her to relax. And she kept cursing and cursing at me and the nurses.
And this is
and
what
then
he
she
said.
tried to headbutt me.
This is what he said in his report.
And in court.
And in court?
Twice.
Did he know that you had got the surveillance video?
Yes.
He knew you had the surveillance video and he still stuck to that?
Officers will do just about anything to protect their malicious behavior.
Well, I know that.
And they go so far as to shoot themselves in the foot, and we'll hear about what Moody did to Ernest Dueñas. And so it doesn't...
What was this officer's name that did this to you?
It's Officer Ramirez, badge number 17598, and he's a California Highway Patrol officer. It's Officer Ramirez, badge number 17598, Highway Patrol.
Oh, it's
CHP.
Highway Patrol, CHP, okay. And
So,
badge number is
17598. 17598.
598.
And so
he's still there. He's still working, huh?
He's still working, and he was found exonerated of all the allegations that I made to the department. In court, I was found guilty of resisting arrest, delaying, a peace officer in his line of duty, and they have to actually prove that he's actually in his line of duty, and then therefore I can resist arrest. I also was found guilty of a DUI without any proof of chemical tests and vandalism. And so
Based
I
on
went
no
in,
test, no blood test, no breathalyzer test.
No.
And they found you guilty.
No concrete, conclusive evidence.
Based on
proves,
what? He smelled alcohol on you?
That's what he said. He said I was stumbling. And you look at the
were
video.
Were you stumbling?
No. And even if I
Well, you
was,
should have been.
Mr.
At 1
Wagener,
in the morning, you should have been asleep, stumbling in bed.
not when you're a college student studying mathematics as a major.
Oh, okay.
It's not unusual for me to be up at that hour.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what, even if I was drunk, even if I was beyond intoxicated, it does not give him the right to treat me or to even put his hands on me.
I agree.
And that's the thing, is that people always want to justify, well, what did he do? Or what did she do to deserve this treatment, right? And that's okay, because that's what, personally, that's what I would immediately, we always subconsciously, well, there has to be a reason.
No,
right?
it doesn't.
And, we don't know that these officers actually, go home and sometimes are beating their wives, and their wives have no way of actually, going and seeking help.
You're right.
And so when victims are found, when they are victims of a police brutality, what happens is they criminalize the victim, dead or alive. What happened to Kelly Thomas, like you mentioned, he was put on trial the day that those two officers were on trial, so was Kelly Thomas.
Yeah, and that's what the defense did, and they did a very effective job. My complaint is that the prosecutor deliberately tried to lose that case. I watched that trial, and I'd been to 600 trials and hearings, and I have never seen a prosecutor put on such a deadpan case. He tried to lose. Oh, here's the video, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you jury, you kind of know what to do, don't you? Wink, wink, nod, nod. Wink, wink, nod, nod. But later, it appears there were 2 attorneys on that jury. Now, I thought attorneys were barred from being on a jury. But apparently,
No.
they've changed the law, and now they can be. It used to be attorneys, their wives, policemen, and their wives could not serve on a jury. But now they've changed it because they want convictions. They don't want anybody getting out, even if, like you were abused by the system, you were abused by the cop.
No.
What was this officer's name again? Badge 17?
Officer Jose A. Ramirez. Ramirez. Ramirez.
Ramirez.
And so it could be Officer Ramirez's son in 14 years from now, 15 years from now. And what people don't know is that Kelly Thomas's father was actually a law enforcement agent at one point, and so was his father. And so at one point, his grandfather was getting these You know, let's get these guys off the streets, you know? And what people don't, I mean, with the officers, you know, I feel deep down inside that what we're all doing as a community in California, you know, as a whole statewide effort, I feel sometimes that even the officers who are too coward to speak out are actually glad that we're doing it, because we're doing it for them and for their future, for their kids.
I agree.
Because they cannot do it themselves.
I know that. You're exactly correct. And I know police officers who are bad. I know some good ones. And even right here in Santa Maria, there are police officers that leak me information, but they don't want to be seen publicly with me. They don't want to be seen talking to me. But they will let me know if there's a situation and what I should pay attention to. And this CHP officer, so you had a trial in LA County Court?
Yes, the superior, yeah.
Which crooked judge did you have down there in LA?
I had Gloria White-Brown. She's a superior judge, and she was a black woman.
So you thought you had a chance, and you thought, yeah, and she just socked it to you, didn't she?
I had to serve 17 days in LA County Jail for the lies that the officer told. She allowed that the video be excluded as evidence because it was, quote, prejudice against the officer.
Well, who did you have for a public defender pretender?
I paid a private attorney, and I paid $8,000, and I was threatened by the attorney, so I'm not going to say his name. I was threatened.
You were threatened by your own attorney?
He said after he lost the criminal case, he also said that he would help me with the civil part. So once he lost on the resisting arrest, so resisting arrest can be used as a cover charge, and when an officer uses excessive force. So in civil court, when a victim is found guilty of resisting, it reduces their credibility and chances of winning against an abusive officer.
And so you're a
he
private
then let
attorney.
Me go, and then threatened me when I was looking for another one. Does anybody, you know, right when this happened in court, I put up my video on YouTube. I put up a Facebook justice page, and I said, I need help, because there's nowhere to turn. You know, people are left lost. You're up against this blue wall, is what we call it. And it's almost impossible, but it's important to go up again, you know, to challenge the status quo.
You did, but I think your mistake was paying the first attorney $8,000.
It was a big mistake. But at
Huge
that point,
mistake,
you don't know.
and I keep telling people, but they don't watch my videos on YouTube and learn this lesson. If you had watched my videos 5 years ago, you would have said, I ain't paying no frickin' British Accreditation Registry member $8,000, because that's what they are. BAR stands for British Accreditation Registry, which means their loyalty is to the Crown of England, which is not the king or queen, it's actually the bank gangsters. And it's them guys that cover for the bankers. It's all, and then they put a warrant and sell your warrant because you're in jail, and it goes on to the stock market, and somebody's trading in your jail time, making money off your jail time. And the judges know it, the lawyers know it, but they will never tell you. They don't want you to know that the system is completely rigged. It's completely rigged. There is no justice in a system where all the members belong to the same club. Let me put it this way. Supposing only members of the Crips could be judges and lawyers. And if you're not a Crip gang member, you can't be a judge, you can't be a prosecutor, and you can't be a defense attorney. You must be a Crip. Well, the Bloods might feel that this is a little prejudicial. If you belong to the Bloods, or the 18th Street gang, or some other gang that's not affiliated with the Crips, and you're going in, hey, you got a Crip judge, you got a Crip prosecutor, you got a Crip defender, and I'm a Blood. I'm doing whatever the Blood sign is, you know. I don't think I can get a fair trial here. That's exactly what it is. You're going into a system. They all belong to a club called the BAR, B-A-R, which stands for British Accreditation Registry. Whether it's the California Bar, the Florida Bar, you know, and I've had this gal drove all the way down here from, you weren't watching my show, you don't look at my YouTube clips, so you wouldn't have seen her. But she came down from Portland, Oregon, to tell me how she hired a lawyer to help her with a really minor problem with the city. It's a really minor little permit problem. She had 4 properties. She had a book this thick she wrote about how crooked the sheriff was, the judge, all that. But she had a minor problem. She hired an attorney to fix a minor problem. She lost her health spa. She lost her rental properties. She lost her home. All 4 properties, all gone, all stolen. She ended up homeless.